Shalom, welcome. This is TV7's Editor's Note. I'm Jonathan Hessen, and in today's edition, we're going to have a very interesting discussion with my dear friend and colleague, Major General in Reserve, Gershon HaCohen.
Good to see you.
It's always a pleasure, and of course, for those who are not aware of who Gershon is, General HaCohen have formerly served as the commander of the defense colleges in Israel, an Army Corps commander, a philosopher, and a historian at his own right. I think there are very few people who I have learned the quantity of knowledge and wisdom out of that knowledge that Gershon has managed to bestow upon me, and I am
huge
humbled.
Promise.
It is a huge promise. No, I do appreciate your mentorship, and it's really a blessing to have you here with us. And with that, we just for the sake of our viewers watching right now, I'd like to highlight we are in our summer broadcast schedule. This month, we will air a couple of productions a month, namely 3 times a week. We will have our Israel at War updates, and there will be also intermediary productions from Editor's Note to other programs that have yet to be announced. So stay tuned. But nonetheless, General HaCohen, we just had the 12-day war behind us. And of course, this ended last week on Tuesday. And right now I'm looking at reality at hand. And I'm asking myself, in Hebrew we say tam, aval lo nishlam. It may have ended, but it's not complete. Give us your current perspective to the complexities related to this.
Really, it is amazing because it is greater than all what we can really understand. It is a phenomena that similar to huge phenomena that have been described in the Bible. It is not only the surprise that making that such an astonishment event. It is beyond understanding because we can really describe the series of military actions. We can describe how many targets have been attacked, what really is the physical outcome, even though there is a debate what really happened to the location of Fordo or Isfahan, but whether it was totally destroyed or not totally destroyed, just half, how fast the Iranian could come again to produce the uranium, to enrich uranium, all that is a technical description. The event in itself is much greater than a series of events. It is a phenomena that coming to bring an engagement of 2 main religions. And it is not just a fight between one religion against another to ask where is God really deciding to exemplify who is a chosen one among that competition. It is greater than that. And in the Middle East, including Shia Islam and Judaism, religion is not only something that's taking place in the mosque or in the synagogue. It is taking place in all other holistic arenas, in politics, in literature, in dreams of ordinary people, in dreams of leaders. All of them together are huge conglomerate that couldn't be divided to say this is the political dimension, this is the religious dimension. They are coming together. And just in order to give an example what it means that they are undivided, Rouhani was a president of Iran in 2014. And before Ramadan, he assembled all the priests or imams
Clerics, right.
of the Shia in Iran, and he had to explain them what's going on, because at that time they negotiated with the United States about a new nuclear agreement with President Obama, and that time they really worked in alliances with the United States in Iraq and Syria against ISIS. It means that he must explain them how they are making alliances with a huge Satan. They are calling United States the big Satan and Israel the small Satan. So if they are Satan or devil, how to call them, why at all you are coming to create alliances with that entity? And he told them the following: there are complicated times in which flexible heroism is needed for jihad. Those who are coming to analyze that statement from Western point of view, Western conceptual point of view, they are saying, look, at that moment, critical moment regarding the whole complicated constraints of Iran, Rouhani just realized what he must do according to political considerations, and he gave aside the jihadic religious considerations. I told them exactly the opposite. What he did at that time, according to the awareness of the necessity coming from reality, he colored the practical, realistic, political considerations by the color of jihad. He just brought them to be united with the whole face about what is their obligation in reality in that time. It means he made that undivided. So it is not possible to say this is the practical reasoning according to political considerations, and he put aside the religious considerations. The fact that they are coming together is the key to understand the whole issue, and it is very important to understand what's going on now. And if we are trying to understand the difference between the way the whole reality is conceived by President Trump, for example, and how it is conceived by me, I am not in the position to speak about Netanyahu, because I'm not sure that he's really looking about that phenomena from my own conceptual framework. It means that for President Trump, what happened is that he pushed the Iranian to follow the practical reasoning considerations.
Interesting.
But it is a mistake, because by just accepting the ceasefire, they did that from deep roots in their religious principles. And one of them is to realize a moment in which you are under circumstances of weakness, what is called in Islam marhalat al-istadaf. And at that time, it is a credo by God to realize the weakness and to take it as a will of God that you will be aware for your weakness with taking the power to be patient and to wait to your opportunities that will come.
I first of all, it's fascinating to hear this perspective. It's quite interesting that when we're speaking about the Iranians, particularly, they always appoint a president that is designated for the time that they're living in. The president in Iran is merely an advisor to the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He does not have executive powers, such as the ones carried by Netanyahu or President Trump for this.
But all are disciples of him and obeying him.
Absolutely. The thing is that going from Mahmoud Ahmadinejad to Hassan Rouhani to Ibrahim Raisi and now to
even Hatami.
Masoud Pezeshkian, but also Hatami before him, they always approach reality from the prism of 12 Shia Islam. And each one of the 11 that preceded the Al-Mahdi, who supposedly roams the earth in secret and will not emerge until Israel is destroyed, per their belief. The 11, each one lived their life in a certain discourse that 12 Shia Muslims learn from those different circumstances and apply it to the circumstantial reality that they face. And therefore, for instance, when we're talking about Hassan Rouhani, I remember vividly the situation you're referring to. And in that meeting, he also referred to the third Imam as well as the seventh Imam in order to stipulate specifically that those specific Imams were the ones who made an arrangement with the West to survive in order to emerge victorious later. It's like the ancient Chinese philosopher Sun Tzu highlights from a tactical perspective. When the ancient warriors of old were in a situation that they faced where they could not prevail, they positioned themselves defensively and waited out the enemy to be able to yet again reemerge in the future and then fight for victory, so to speak. So this is something that is not considered often enough in Western circles, because this type of approach where the adversary is lying time and again in every circumstance. I mean, they are good liars, right?
And even the word liars is missing something, because to lie is not like in mathematics. If I said that, if I'm saying that 2 + 2 is 5, I'm lying.
Right.
But in reality, according to their own culture, sometimes, in reality, not in mathematics, 2 + 2, according to the context, must be 5 or 3. Sometimes it would be 4.
Right. But mathematically speaking, we know that 1 + 1 is 2, and there's no other subjective answer to it. It's an objective reality, an objective truth. And when we're engaged in this challenge with an Iran that seeks to outmaneuver its adversaries by all means necessary, including deceiving, in the West, they're so diplomatic about trying to keep Iran from going berserk, right? From going all out and starting to be like a suicide bomber on the block. And that's what the Islamic Republic is perceived as. And not justifiably so, because they are terrified about losing the regime. The loss of this regime...
And the regime is a holy mission to keep it, to survive with the regime, because the regime is a missionary duty for the universe.
Well, it's the missionary duty for the universe. The head of this regime is perceived, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in this case, as the mediator between, or the interlocutor between Al-Mahdi, the 12th Imam, and the followers of 12 or Shia Islam. And therefore, if this collapses, they will lose a lot of believers out of, they would be shocked, by the loss of faith.
In a way, in order to explain how important it is to keep the survival of the regime, is what for me and for you is the importance of the existence of the Israeli state. We will do everything in order to keep that state.
Absolutely.
To protect it by all means. Because for Judaism, no way to contain another collapse of the third Jewish redemption.
But there is a difference. And Gershon, if I may, this difference is vital. Because they do everything to keep their regime from collapsing. And as
without constraints.
Without constraints, and as Rafael Grossi, the Director General of the IAEA, stated, that when talking about Iran's nuclear program, the answers that the Iranians provided with regard to 4 open probes about nuclear particles that were uncovered in undisclosed locations were technically not credible. In other words,
yes,
they lied. In contrast, when we fight for the state of Israel and we do everything necessary, we do so in spirit and in truth.
Yes.
That's the difference.
Because truth in Judaism is a value.
And also in Christianity.
Basically.
Christian.
Yes. And the very concept of truth in Islam is not that they are lying, it is absolutely a different concept.
Elaborate on that, if you may.
I'm respecting that attitude, not criticizing it. I'm trying to really get understanding, and the word understanding is not enough. In German speaking, there is a word verstehen, in order to emphasize that it is more deeply than just to understand.
Yeah.
It means that understanding is a rational process, and truth is a concept connected to rational thinking. And the main idea...
It's comprehension, basically.
Yes, of the Islamic approach to truth is by realizing that there is a huge existence of several phenomena that are existing beyond rationality. It means that you can really convince me by rational analysis, and still there is something beyond. Mm-hmm. It means it is a basic truth in rationality, but absolutely untrue to reality beyond rationality. It is really hard to understand it because it's really dropping us to mystical thinking. We cannot analyze mystical thinking.
I understand and I agree. However, I do think that there is a fine line that also separates that from deceptive actions, the qiyah and other aspects that are pursued.
Just to go to something very simple, very close to a concrete, simple reality of everyone. There is a known discourse in Talmud and between two schools, one of Bet Shammai, those who are following the Rabbi Shammai, and those of Hillel. Mm-hmm. And they are asking whether it is necessary to tell the truth about the beauty of a bride by her walking to her wedding. Mm. And Shammai said, we must follow the truth, and if she is ugly, we cannot say that she is the most beautiful girl, because we are committed to the truth. And Hillel and the school of Hillel insisting that at that moment, you must say that she is the most beautiful girl. It means the context,
right,
taking us beyond the truth of reality.
Interesting. Well, we don't have too much time left, so we will withdraw somewhat from philosophy and
No, leave it
moral
aside.
thinking.
We will have to contemplate, and yet
Absolutely.
beyond understanding.
Indeed.
Yes.
Let's talk for a moment.
No, but that I'll tell you that they are not, even President Trump claimed against Khamenei that if he is a faithful man, a religious leader, how he is lying to his people.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, he's not really lying, because...
Well, here also in this context, his people who are familiar with the truth are not telling everything to Khamenei. Because if they would tell everything to Khamenei, he would probably not survive it from a...
Could be that he will get a heart attack or something like that. But actually, they succeeded to attack Israel. They succeeded to kill Israelis. Mm-hmm. They succeeded to create a huge destruction in Israeli cities. Mm-hmm. The effect of what they succeeded to create in the Israeli cities is a dramatic effect. We cannot ignore the outcome of that effect.
We cannot ignore the outcome. However, and here's the anecdote. We're both familiar with what was expected to happen.
Of course. I know the scenario because I led an exercise in April, and I know exactly the potential of what could happen.
Is this even 1% of what was the potential?
Of course, yes. Of course, it is a miracle. In my understanding, the Israeli people really must bless God for a huge, concrete miracle.
And that is the point. Because, yes, there were 28 people who lost their lives, and it's heartbreaking. There are still wounded amongst those.
Yes.
But people need to understand the scope of the miracle that occurred, because the scenario that you're referring to was versus the reality that ultimately occurred. The Iranians were not successful in inflicting even 1%
of course
of what was.
Of course, I can just tell you part of the scenario. We insisted in describing the whole scenario that they can launch 800 ballistic missiles in one shot to Israel.
Yep.
It is beyond all Israeli capability of defending system. And they could do that.
Any system
yes, in the world. There are no other better defense systems than air defense systems than what Israel built.
Absolutely.
Including the United States support. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they have been prevented from exploiting that potential is due to the achievement of the Israeli Air Force attack to prevent them from collecting the whole missiles together, and they really couldn't fulfill their plans for what they can really dream added in their mind to do.
Just to think that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei proclaimed a day of devastation and rage with 1,000 ballistic missiles to be fired at one single night, and then seeing just one ballistic missile fired. I mean, that is a miracle. It is, of course, a miracle that has a lot of activity behind the scenes that frustrated the Iranians from being able to do it. And ultimately, what is war if not a battle of wits between two rival parties?
Of course. And actually, the main miracle is that the huge operational creative idea of Qasem Soleimani have been just prevented. Because what he really had in his mind, and he was a huge architect, a huge, brilliant operational mind.
Devilish, to
Yes,
say the
of
least.
course.
Yes.
To build a fire ring surrounding Israel with Hezbollah, Iraqi militia, Houthi, Hamas, that will act simultaneously in one synchronization, including Iran, including an attack of commando units from Hezbollah to Israel in the north and commando units of Hamas as happened in 7th of October. And the fact that it was not really acted in the plan of Soleimani in synchronization of simultaneous attack, it is a miracle.
Gerald HaCohen, we will record another episode on the prism that Israel views this war versus the American prism to this war. And we are still at a state of war. People need to realize that. So we will discuss this at length in our next edition. But to summarize, God is, let me put it this way. The God of Isaac, Jacob, and Abraham has brought about the successful defeat of Israel's adversaries.
Absolutely.
And all glory to him.
And we are speaking about that physically.
Absolutely. Major General HaCohen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank all of you at home as well, and highlight also that we are also in the process of preparing for the new broadcast season, and therefore we do need your assistance to be able to assist TV7 Israel. We are, of course, in the United States a 501c3. There is also a organization in Finland for our European friends and supporters. But nonetheless, if you're blessed by our productions and would like to help support our continued operations from here in Jerusalem, please donate. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Until our next edition from here in Jerusalem. Shalom.
For more of TV7 Israel's productions and editorials, we invite you to visit our website at www.tv7israelnews.com.